you love doing IELTS reading? Well, if you do, you've come to the right place, because today we're going to be doing a sentence completion question. So sentence completion questions look a bit like this. This is a sentence completion question. So in your IELTS reading test, what you would do is glance at the question, acknowledge that you've got a sentence completion question, but first you're going to look at the text. Now you're going to look at the text and you're going to read it, and you're going to read for gist, which means you're going to read quickly. You're going to get a general understanding of the text, a general understanding of the layout, so where everything is, and then you're going to quickly highlight as you read. So this is going to help you focus in on the text and possibly answer some of the questions later on. So let's do that together. Here's the text. Read for gist, highlight some of the words. If this is too small, then here's an enlarged version. You can always pause the video and read the different sections, or you can download the PDF below this lesson. Here are paragraphs D to G. Again, pause the video if you're going to be doing this on the screen with me. Okay, hopefully you've read for gist and you've got some of the words highlighted. Here are the words that I've highlighted. Don't worry if we've got different words highlighted. The idea behind this is that it helps you focus in on the text and will maybe help you answer some of the questions later on. So let's look at our sentence completion question in a little bit more detail. We've got the instructions at the top. The instructions are important because they'll say something like no more than 3 words. This is important. And then we've got our 6 sentences. The 6 sentences where we need to add words to make grammatically correct sentences. So what's our strategy? Well, like I mentioned, first of all, we need to pay attention to how many words we write. So in this case, it says no more than 3 words, which means 1 word, fine, 2 words, fine, 3 words, also fine, 4 words, not fine. We're going to look at the questions and we're going to underline keywords in the questions, which we're going to do one by one. Then we're going to scan the text, which means to read it very quickly, or not even to read it necessarily. It's more like we're just searching for a particular word or particular phrase. A bit like when you're looking up a word in the dictionary, you scan the dictionary to look for a word. You don't read all of the dictionary to try and find that word. Then we're going to choose a word that fits grammatically, and remember, these answers appear in order in the text. So let's do this together. Which words would you highlight here? Remember, these are words that are going to help you locate the answer in the text. If you're doing it on the screen, then just make a decision. If you're doing it on a PDF, then feel free to highlight those words. Here are the words that I've highlighted. Things like harried, mother, inmates, Bauman, Greenberg. These are all phrases that are going to help me locate the answer. Now here's a tip. There is usually a different task before a sentence completion task. For example, you might get a matching headings question. As a result, you'll already know the text quite well by the time you get onto these questions. You'll notice, for example, here it's questions 8 to 13. That's because numbers 1 to 7 were a matching headings question. Now, do each question one by one, and if you get stuck, then skip the question and return to it later, because the answers come in order. So for example, if you know the answer for number 8 and you know the answer for number 10, then you know that number 9 will be somewhere between those 2 answers. So here's the text, and let's look at our first question. So number 8, being disturbed repeatedly, the harried mother feels frustrated for the lack of. Okay, we're going to look for a phrase that is like harried mother. Harried means harassed or overwhelmed. So maybe we might look for harassed, overwhelmed, or harried. And then we might find the word mother, or perhaps parents, or female parents. Remember, synonyms are important when it comes to sentence completion questions. In this case, if we look and we scan the text, we'll find harried mother. So the exact phrase. Let's read paragraph E in more detail to find the missing words. Pause the video, do this by yourself, and choose which word or words fit into the space for number 8. Okay, here is the answer. It's privacy. It says, are strong feelings of a lack of privacy. So we have lack of privacy in both the text and the question. However, sometimes you might get a phrase like not enough privacy. So lack of and not enough are synonym phrases. Hey there, are you enjoying doing this task? Well, if you are, or rather if you find it useful, go to EnglishProTips.com where you'll find all of my IELTS preparation courses. You'll get help with IELTS reading, but also IELTS listening, IELTS writing, IELTS speaking. There's model essays, there's model answers, there's PDFs, so much to help you with your IELTS journey. Best of luck and on with the lesson. Okay, back to the text. Now we're going to find the answer for 9. Inmates in high density settings were more aggressive in. Okay, let's look for a phrase like inmates, or a synonym phrase like prisoners, or maybe a phrase about prisoners like jail or prison. Now, if we scan the text, we can actually find the word inmates here in paragraph F, so let's read it in more detail. Pause the video, find the answer. Okay, in this case, the answer is here. In male prisons, inmates in high-density settings were more aggressive in male prisons. Or we could just write prisons and we would still get the correct answer. This is 1 or 2 words, which again is 3 or less words, so that's fine. Back to the text, number 10. The different results between male and female. Okay, male and female. So we're going to look for a word like male and female, or gender, or sexes. Let's look at the text, scan it, and see if we can find it. Okay, again, looking at paragraph F, we have males and females. So let's read it in detail and find the answer. Pause the video and see if you can find it. Pause the video, see if you can find it. The answer is here at the very bottom. Personal space requirements of the gender. So the answer is personal space requirements. Is that okay? Yes, it's 3 words. However, you could also put personal space or even just space, and you would still get the correct answer. Back to the text, we're looking for 11 now, and we've got males, which is easy enough to find. However, even better than that, we've got Baum and Greenberg. Names are a great indicator of what we can scan the text for. And indeed, if we look carefully in paragraph F, we've got Baum and Greenberg, and we know that it's going to be either in F or G because these answers come in order. So let's read this paragraph in more detail. Pause the video, choose the correct answer. Okay, the answer is here. High density leads to decreased attraction. Males experience a more extreme reaction. The answer must be attraction. Especially for males, Baum and Greenberg found that attraction declined. So declined and decreased are synonyms with high density. Okay, back to the text, number 12. Responsibility diffusion. Let's see if we can find that in the text. Yes, we can, at the bottom of paragraph F. Let's read it in detail. Now remember, the answer might be above it, might be below it. Pause the video, see if you can find it. In this case, there it is. It's help. The idea of responsibility diffusion may explain a person's reluctance to help. Okay, the final question. We've got this, again, this set of names, Schmidt and Keating, that's going to make it very easy for us to find the answer. And we know it has to be in paragraph G. There it is. Let's read it in detail. Pause the video, try it yourself. The answer is around here. The more control a person has, Schmidt and Keating suggest that people with more control see crowding as less of a problem. So the answer is control. Now, don't go anywhere because this is where the real learning starts. We're going to listen to an audio version of the text, which is going to help us with our pronunciation and vocabulary. We're going to go over the questions you got wrong, rather you go over them after this video. You're going to make a note of some new vocabulary, not all of the vocabulary, but the vocabulary that helps you answer these questions. Recap what you've learned. So what have you learned as a result of doing this test with me today? And plan in your study journal and your diary to do this test again in 1 to 4 weeks. Okay, let's listen to an audio version of the text.
Of the great myriad of problems which man and the world face today, there are three significant trends which stand above all others in importance. The unprecedented population growth throughout the world, a net increase of 1,400,000 people per week, and all of its associations and consequences. The increasing urbanization of these people, so that more and more of them are rushing into cities and urban areas of the world, and the tremendous explosion of communication and social contact throughout the world, so that every part of the world is now aware of every other part. All of these trends are producing increased crowding and the perception of crowding. It is important to emphasize at the outset that crowding and density are not necessarily the same. Density is the number of individuals per unit area or unit space. It is a simple physical measurement. Crowding is a product of density, communication, contact, and activity. It implies a pressure, a force, and a psychological reaction. It may occur at widely different densities. The frontiersman may have felt crowded when someone built a homestead a mile away. The suburbanite may feel relatively uncrowded in a small house on a half-acre lot if it is surrounded by trees, bushes, and a hedgerow, even though he lives under much higher physical density than did the frontiersman. Hence, crowding is very much a psychological and ecological phenomenon, and not just a physical condition. A classic crowding study was done by Calhoun, 1962, who put rats into a physical environment designed to accommodate 50 rats and provided enough food, water, and nesting materials for the number of rats in the environment. The rat population peaked at 80, providing a look at cramped living conditions. Although the rats experienced no resource limitations other than space restriction, a number of negative conditions developed. The two most dominant males took harems of several female rats and occupied more than their share of space, leaving other rats even more crowded. Many females stopped building nests and abandoned their infant rats. The pregnancy rate declined. Infant and adult mortality rates increased. More aggressive and physical attacks occurred. Sexual variation increased, including hypersexuality, inhibited sexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality. Calhoun's results have led to other research on crowding's effect on human beings, and these research findings have suggested that high density is not the single cause of negative effects on humans. When crowding is defined only in terms of spatial density, the amount of space per person, the effects of crowding are variable. However, if crowding is defined in terms of social density, or the number of people who must interact, then crowding better predicts negative psychological and physical effects. There are several reasons why crowding makes us feel uncomfortable. One reason is related to stimulus overload. There are just too many stimuli competing for our attention. We cannot notice or respond to all of them. This feeling is typical of the harried mother who has several children competing for her attention while she is on the phone and the doorbell is ringing. This leaves her feeling confused, fatigued, and yearning to withdraw from the situation. There are strong feelings of a lack of privacy, being unable to pay attention to what you want without being repeatedly interrupted or observed by others. Field studies done in a variety of settings illustrate that social density is associated with negative effects on human beings. In prison studies, males generally became more aggressive with increases in density. In male prisons, inmates living in conditions of higher densities were more likely to suffer from the fight. Males rated themselves as more aggressive in small rooms, a situation of high spatial density, whilst the females rated themselves as more aggressive in large rooms, Stokols et al., 1973. These differences relate to the different personal space requirements of the genders. Besides, Baum and Greenberg found that high density leads to decreased attraction, both physical attraction and liking towards others, and it appears to have gender differences in the impact that density has on attraction levels, with males experiencing a more extreme reaction. Also, the greater the density is, the less the helping behavior. One reason why the level of helping behavior may be reduced in crowded situations links to the concept of diffusion of responsibility. The more people that are present in a situation that requires help, the less often help is given. This may be due to the fact that people diffuse responsibility among themselves with no one feeling that they ought to be the one to help. Facing all these problems, what are we going to do with them? The more control a person has over the crowded environment, the less negatively they experience it. Thus, the perceived crowding is less, Schmidt and Keating. The ability to cope with crowding is also influenced by the relationship the individual has with the other people in the situation. The high density will be interpreted less negatively if the individual experiences it with people he likes. One of the main coping strategies employed to limit the impact of high density is social withdrawal. This includes behaviors such as averting the gaze and using negative body language to attempt to block any potential intrusions.
Okay, I hope this lesson has been useful. I've really enjoyed doing a sentence completion task with you. Good luck with all of your studying, and I'll see you in the next lesson.